Oh, shalom, 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 shalom. It's going to be a quick one today, but we'll see. But I got a bit of a joke today when I saw this video on YouTube today, basically. So, the question, first of all, let's give praises first. Shalom, family. Let's give all the praises and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah, Kodash, and double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone who are leading this word in truth and spirit and sincerity. And salutations to all of the righteous Hebrew Israelite brothers out there that are teaching this word in the name of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah, Kodash. So, double honors to the hopeful elect men and women of Israel who are out there who have been edified by this truth, who have woken up to the truth of these scriptures. Shalom to all of the hopeful elect men and women of the house of Israel. All praises and glory. So, today's edification, the question, Esau asked, why is America not in Bible prophecy? And this is a discussion that's going on between two pastors, two Edomite pastors. So I'm going to let you listen to it, and then we're going to quickly go through it, right? Because it gave me the giggles so much, I had to play it over so many times just to say, did they actually say that? But this is the question they're asking themselves. Why is America not in Bible prophecy? All right. Two Edomite pastors are having this frank discussion of why America is not in Bible prophecy. Like I said, I couldn't stop laughing. They truly gave me the giggles. Anyways, without further ado, let's go to the video. Let's play it.
Why do you believe America, or why is America not mentioned in Bible prophecy as a key player in the end, or are they a player at all for that matter?
No, they're not. We're not. Okay, several possibilities why. Because, and here's what we assume, in Ezekiel 38 and 39, when this coalition of 8 nations comes down to invade Israel, there's no nation that they're afraid of. Nobody can or will intervene on the side of Israel. So we assume there's no superpower in the world, meaning unfortunately, the demise, as John Wade would say, of the United States of America, unfortunately. Right. So we're not there, meaning we're not either, we don't exist, or we don't have the political will, the military, the economic. In other words, we're not a superpower anymore, and that's the sad reality of it. So we've been predicting along that line, we're going to continue to see the United States go down the drain, unfortunately, simply because the Bible assumes that we're not a player in the last days.
Why is it that you think why are we a diminished power when we're so powerful today?
Yeah, well,
we can only guess.
Yeah, we can only guess. A lot of reasons why. I think part of it is having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof, because we're seen in the world, Greg, as a Christian nation. We are. The rest of the world sees us as Christian, but then they look and come to America and they see things anything but Christian, right? Yeah. And that's what's part of the sadness of all this, that we were, as Ronald Reagan used to say, the light shining on the hill. And that was the idea behind America, the huddled masses gathering together. 20 out of the first 21 institutions that were found in this country's schools, Harvard, Yale, William and Mary, were founded to train pastors to go out and evangelize the rest of the country. Yeah. We've fallen tremendously away from that.
Yeah, one of the ratifiers of the Constitution pointed out that this country was not founded by religionists, but by Christians.
Correct.
And, there are historians who will give us a revisionist version, and they'll try to edit that out. But this is the truth. But we're not claiming that all of America is Christian, but we clearly have a Judeo-Christian foundation that we have strayed from. And it seems to me we know judgment is inevitable. Every nation has a shelf life, doesn't it?
We do.
No matter who. I mean, you go to the great nations of the world, from Babylon to Greece to Rome, etc. They had a beginning, middle, and an end. And that's going to be true of our country as well as any other country. But what we're praying for is, before that time comes, that we could have perhaps another great spiritual awakening.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is the answer we want. America's not in the Bible in the last days because no one's here. We've got a great revival, the rapture, the church happens, the country's empty. Wouldn't that be the great answer to it? Yeah.
You might have seen videos like this before.
Yeah, so that's what got me. I couldn't stop laughing. when they're discussing why is America not in Bible prophecy. So I felt like John McEnroe. I quickly played it, but this is how I felt, right? After I heard that.
You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious. That ball was on the line. Chalk flew up. It was clearly in. How can you possibly call that out? How many you can miss? Now he's walking over. Everyone knows it's in this whole stadium, and you call it out? Explain that to me, will you?
That's how I feel, boy. Explain that to me, Esau. You can't be serious, Esau. Explain that to me. Ah, the FUC gay is America, not in Bible prophecy. I couldn't stop laughing. I couldn't stop laughing. He went to Ezekiel 38. Anyway, let's just quickly pull out a couple of scriptures before we can get to this. 1 second. I'm like, you can't be serious, man. So, America, Bible prophecy. We call that Ezekiel 38, right? So let's quickly go there. Ezekiel 38. He says, oh, when they come up against Israel, America's not around, yeah? Well, he says there's no nation to come up against Gog, he said. Oh my gee, did you believe that? So we know, everybody knows Gog and Magog, they gather together, right? Gog and Magog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech, Tubal, prophesies against him and say, thus says the Lord power, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. And I will turn thee back where? To the Middle East, right? To the valley of Jehoshaphat. And I will put hooks in thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth. And all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, all your modern day weapons, and a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Handling swords, your modern day swords are your guns, all right? So Gog and Magog is Russia, right? For those of you that may or may not know. Persia, Ethiopia, Libya, all of them with a shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands. Gomer is Turkey, and the house of Togarmah, Turkey, of the north quarters, and all his bands of many people with thee. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. So the Russians are going to be a guard unto all of these nations that they're going to gather together. I mean, he didn't even tell us who Gog and Magog was, right? He doesn't even know who Gog and Magog are, right? That I can definitely tell you, right? But that's your Edomite pastors and preachers, because the Lord is not dealing with your Christian Catholic churches, just so you understand. It says, after many days thou shalt be visited, in the latter days, in the latter years, and we're in those years. This is the time this is going to take place, right? In the latter years thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword and is gathered out of many people, right? So what is the land that's brought back from the sword and is gathered out of many people? That's America, right? Against the mountains of Israel, and also against the governments of Israel, because Israel is going to be on the same side as NATO and America in this ally, because Israel is the country. When it talks about the least of them, the least of the flock is going to draw them out, we believe through biblical scripture that Israel is the country that's going to draw America into this war of Armageddon, all right? So it says, and which have always been waste, but it is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them. Thou shalt ascend and come like a storm. That's the army coming like a storm. That's all of the Russians that are coming against America and its NATO allies, and coming against the mountains of Israel, which is the government of Israel. Thou shalt be like a cloud to cover the land, thou and all thy bands and many people with thee. Thus says the Lord power. It shall also come to pass that at the same time shall things come up into thy mind, into the Russian's mind, and that thou shalt think an evil thought. So what is this evil thought that Russia is going to think? And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. The land of unwalled villages is the United States of America, is Babylon the Great, also referred to as Edom, spiritually known as Sodom and Egypt in the Bible. I will go to them that are at rest, because they're at rest. America has never faced a war on their own land from a foreign country. Okay, people say, oh, about the War of Independence. Yes, the War of Independence, but that War of Independence was between Edomites, pilgrims who didn't want to be ruled by King George III of England, by the British Empire, and those that wanted to set up their, that wanted to, what they call like a secession. They wanted to create their own state, which was the United States of America. So that was Edomites fighting against Edomites that had all came to America together. It wasn't like a foreign power that came in to fight against America. So America's never faced a foreign power coming into America to have war against them. Like Korea like I saw America go to North Korea. America went to World War II to Germany. They came to foreign lands and fought. But foreign powers have not come into America to fight. Because the War of Independence was really, in a sense, a civil war between those that wanted independence from Britain and those that was part of Britain that wanted to stay part of Britain. Was fighting each other in America. That's the War of Independence. So when it says, and thou shalt say, I will go to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest. The land of unwalled villages is the United States of America. What do you think Donald Trump was trying so hard to put up to build a wall? It's the land of unwalled villages, right? To them that are at rest, because they're at rest. They don't believe that. They believe they're untouchable. Were they attacked in World War II? That was in Hawaii, right? Which is a state of America, but that wasn't the mainland. When the Japanese attacked Hawaii and dropped bombs on them for America to enter the Second World War, that was Hawaii, which was like it's one of the American states, but it was, like 300, 400, 500 miles off the coast of America. It wasn't the mainland. So they're at rest. This is talking about America. He says America's not in the Bible. He says America's not in Ezekiel 38 when it talks about Gog and Magog coming up against Israel. He doesn't even know who Gog and Magog is. It says that dwell safely. All of them dwelling without walls. That's America. Having neither bars nor gates. That's America. To do what? To take a spoil. This is what the Russians are going to do. And to take a prey. To turn thine hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited. Fully inhabited. America. This is what the Europeans did. Came and built up this golden city. And upon the people that are what? That are gathered out of the nations. America is a country where the people are gathered out of all of the nations. If the one country in the whole world that has every nationality and every nation that lives there, it is the United States of America. So this is who Gog and Magog, who are the Russians, are going to come up against. They're going to come up upon the people that are gathered out of the nations, which is America, which have gotten cattle and goods that dwell in the midst of the land, all their riches that they've got. So let's just go to another one. I brought this one up earlier, right? Isaiah 14:4. It says, start at verse 3. It says, and it shall come to pass that in the day that the Lord Yahweh shall give thee rest from thy sorrow and from thy fear, talking about Israel. All right, talking about the Israelites. When I say Israel, talking about the actual Israelites, those of us that were taken into captivity, those of us that descend from the 12 tribes of Israel, all right? Jacob, the kingdom of the children of Israel and the children of Judah, which are going to come together in these last days. It says, and it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord Yahweh shall give thee rest from thy sorrows, right? And from thy fear and from thy hard bondage, right? That we have been under, the true children of Israel. It's ain't talking about those small hats in Israel. Wherein thou was made to serve what? To serve bondage and slavery. This is what we did. We served bondage and slavery in the United States of America. How could this man believe that America's not in the Bible? But that's Esau. That's how proud these Edomites are. But they have no understanding of the scriptures. Why? Because the scriptures was never given to them. Right? And the Lord is not dealing with them when it comes to the prophecies of the Bible. It says that thou shalt take up this proverb against who? Against the king of Babylon. So this is talking about the leader, the president that's going to be in charge, sitting in the presidential seat in America when, right, this whole World War III takes place. And say, how has the oppressor seized, the golden city seized? Right? So we are, in a sense, the brothers that are teaching this word, we are taking up these proverbs against America, calling out America and saying, look, you are Babylon the Great, you are Eden, you are spiritually known as Egypt and Sodom, and you are prophesied to be destroyed by the Russians and by the chariots of the Lords, right? In the very near future. So that golden city that Isaiah is prophesying against here is America. How was the oppressor? Esau, Edom, the Edomites, the oppressor, America, the golden city seized. The Lord has broken the staff of the wicked Who are the wicked? The wicked are the Edomites that the Bible speaks of. And the sceptre of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath and with a continual stroke. He that ruled the nations in anger. Who rules the world? Which nation right now sits over all of the other nations in what they say and what they do, and all of the policies and international policies that are put forward? What nation sits at the top of the table? And if you don't go by what their rules, just like it says, he that ruled the nations in anger, they use their army to invade, or they create some kind of coup d'etat or disturbance, or they flood your country with either drugs or guns. You know, they destabilize your whole economy, your country. And if that doesn't work, they finally invade. He that rules the nations in anger, that's America, is persecuted, and none hindereth. So when America goes, the whole earth is going to be at rest and it's going to be at quiet. They break forth in singing. They're going to celebrate America's destruction. How can this devil believe that America, these pastors, right, there's something else, you know, these Edomite pastors, America's not in the Bible? Are you kidding me? Now, we know, right, ancient Babylon, right, let's put it up here earlier, right, was taken down by Cyrus the Great, right? So when Daniel had this vision here, when it says, and this is the writing that was on the what was written when Nebuchadnezzar had this vision, right? Many tekel up, I can never pronounce that word. Upfarsing. This is the interpretation of the thing. Many, God has numbered thy kingdom and finished it. Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances and art found wanting. Peris, thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. Ancient Babylon was taken down by Cyrus the Great, all right? And it was no war, no destruction, no desolation. It says, then commanded Belshazzar, right? And they clothed Daniel with scarlet and put on a chain of gold on his neck and made a proclamation concerning him that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. Why? Because he was able to break down Nebuchadnezzar's dreams and the writing that came up on the wall, the mysterious writing that was written on the wall while he was having a great feast, all right? So it says, in that night was Belshazzar, which is the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain. And Darius the Median took the kingdom, being about 62 years old. Now, Darius played a part in taking the kingdom, but it was actually Cyrus the Great that took the kingdom down. So, Cyrus the Great is here. It was 540 BC, all right, near the Babylonian Empire. Cyrus captured Elam, which is known as Susanna, and its capital Susa. The Nebuchadnezzar's Chronicle records that prior to the battles, Nebuchadnezzar had ordered cult statues from the outlying Babylonian cities to be brought into the capital, suggesting that the conflict had been positive in the winter of 540 BC. Near the beginning of October 539 BC, Cyrus fought the Battle of Opis in or near the strategic riverside city of Opis on the Tigris, north of Babylon. The Babylonian army was routed, and on October the 10th, Sippar was seized without a battle and with no resistance from the populace. It is probable that Cyrus engaged in negotiations with the Babylonian generals to obtain a compromise on their part and therefore avoided an armed confrontation. Nebuchadnezzar, who was retreated to Sippar following his defeat at Opis, fled to Basipia. So it says 2 days later, on October the 12th, right, Gaburu's troops entered Babylon, right, under Cyrus the Great's orders, again without any resistance from the Babylonian armies, and detained Nebuchadnezzar, right? Herodotus explains that to accomplish this feat, the Persians, using a basin dug earlier by the Babylonian queen Nitocris to protect Babylon against the Median attacks, because Darius came from the Persian and the Median Empire. To protect Babylon against the Median attacks, diverted the Euphrates River into a canal so that the water level dropped to the height of the middle of the man's thigh, which allowed the invading forces to march directly through the riverbed to enter at night. Shortly thereafter, Nebuchadnezzar returned from Bosipia, right, and surrendered, hear that, to Cyrus. Cyrus didn't have to go in there and do no war and destroy and make it desolate and destroy and pillage. And no, On October the 29th, Cyrus himself entered the city of Babylon, right? Prior to Cyrus's invasion of Babylon, the Neo-Babylonian Empire had conquered many kingdoms. In addition to the Babylonian itself, Cyrus probably incorporated its subnational entities into his empire, including Syria, Judea, and Arabia, Petraea, although there is no direct evidence of the fact. So, this is what Cyrus did. This is the Persian and the Medes, right, empire. There was no battle and war, and they came in and made it desolate and that. They walked into Babylon. They entered into Babylon, right? Now remember, this was prophesied by Isaiah, right? Isaiah 45 verse 1. Thus says the Lord power to his anointed, talking about Cyrus, right? To Cyrus, whose right hand I have holden, to subdue nations before him. And I will loose the lions of the kings, right? The lions of the kings is the Babylonian Empire, to open before him the two-leaved gates, and the gates shall not be shut, because he marched into the Neo-Babylonian Empire to take down Nebuchadnezzar's grandson Belshazzar, right? Also known as Nebudinus, right? This is what he did. He marched into here. He didn't have to. There was no war. He didn't come in and pillage and rape and was sitting there and was sieging the city for months on end and set up siege barriers and trenches and army and was fighting and tried to get over the walls. No, the gates were left open because it was prophesied by Isaiah that he was going to walk into Babylon, to ancient Babylon, to open before him the two-leaved gates, and the gates shall not be shut. That's what he did. He walked into ancient Babylon, Neo-Babylon Empire, Cyrus the Great. Now, I think he even talks about it. Let's see, hold on a minute. So it says here, all the streets of Babylon leading on each side to the river were secured by two leaven brazen gates, and these were provisionally left open when Cyrus' forces entered into the city in the night through the channel of the river, in the great disorder occasioned by the great feast which was then celebrated. Otherwise, says Herodotus, the Persians would have been shut up in the bed of the river as in a net and all destroyed, right? But the gates of the palace, right? He's saying that if these guys weren't feasting, because it was all prophesied. Because remember, when they came in, Daniel tells you here, it was the night of Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, was slain, right? The same night. They were sitting down having a feast. Let's see if it tells you here. But he lifted up thyself and Lord of heaven, thou shalt fall special to the house of concubines, thy wives, thou shalt praise the gods of silver and gold. So let's see if it tells you here. Because they was having a feast that same night. Don't want to spend too long looking for it, but they was having a feast. So when it shows you here, when it says here, the Persians would have been shut up in the bed of the river as in a net and all destroyed if they weren't feasting. They were celebrating, right? So it says the gates of the palace were also imprudently open to ascertain the occasion of the tumult when the two parties under Gobryas and Gadatus rushed in. They got possession of the palace and slew the king. They walked in, they took down. And this is all in history. This is all written down in here as well. This is what they call Cyrus's cylinder, right? It says the text on the cylinder praises Cyrus, sets out his genealogy and portrays him as a king from the line of kings. The Babylonian king Nebudinus, who was defeated and disposed, so that was the king that was in charge when Cyrus took down the Neo-Babylon Empire, who was defeated and disposed by Cyrus, is denounced as an impious oppressor of the people of Babylonia, and his low-born origins are implicitly contrasted to Cyrus's kingly heritage. The victorious Cyrus is portrayed as having been chosen by the chief Babylonian god Marduk to restore peace and order to the Babylonians. All right. The text states that Cyrus was welcomed by the people of Babylon as their new ruler and entered the city in peace. That's the point I wanted to get to you. All right. So ancient Babylon wasn't destroyed. Ancient Babylon is still there today. It's also known as Iraq. All right. Ancient Babylon. So when Cyrus marched into this place, into Babylon, all right, there was no war, there was no massacre, there was no siege on the city, nothing. He came in, he took out the king, took control, and the people were glad to have a new king, Persian king, because they saw their own king as a tyrant. All right. So ancient Babylon was never destroyed. Today, this place is known as Iraq, right? This is where the Euphrates River is and the Tigris River. This is Iraq, also known as Mesopotamia, right? Some people call this area the Levant. So let's go back to, so I want to play this. Go away. All right, so I just want to play this again. I'm sorry. So listen to what this devil says again. Why is America not mentioned in the Bible? This is Esau, you know. The Lord is not dealing with you, Esau. He's not dealing with you at all, Esau.
Why do you believe?
Right.
Do you believe America, or why is America not mentioned in Bible prophecy
Listen again.
as a key player in the end, or are they a player at all for that matter?
No, they're not. We're not. Okay, several possibilities. Why? Because, and here's what we assume, in Ezekiel 38 and 39, when this coalition of 8 nations comes down to invade Israel, there's no nation that they're afraid of. Nobody can or will intervene on the side of Israel. So we assume there's no superpower in the world, meaning the, unfortunately, the demise, as John Wade would say, of the United States of America, unfortunately. Right. So we're not there, meaning we're not either, we don't exist, or we don't have the political will, the military, the economic. In other words, we're not a superpower anymore, and that's the sad reality of it. So we've been predicting along that line, we're going to continue to see the United States go down the drain, unfortunately, simply because the Bible assumes that we're not a player in the last days.
Why is it that you think why are we a diminished power when we're so powerful today?
Yeah, well,
we can only guess.
Yeah, we can only guess. A lot of reasons why. I think part of it is having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof, because we're seen in the world, Greg, as a Christian nation. We are. The rest of the world sees us as Christian, but then they look and come to America and they see things anything but Christian, right? Yeah. And that's what's part of the sadness of all this, that we were, we're as Ronald Reagan used to say, the light shining on the hill. And that was the idea behind America, the huddled masses gathering together. 20 out of the first 21 institutions that were found in this country's schools, Harvard, Yale, William and Mary, were founded to train pastors to go out and evangelize the rest of the country. Yeah. We've fallen tremendously away from that.
Yeah, one of the ratifiers of the Constitution pointed out that this country was not founded by religionists, but by Christians.
Correct.
And, there are historians who will give us a revisionist version, and they'll try to edit that out. But this is the truth. But we're not claiming that all of America is Christian, but we clearly have a Judeo-Christian foundation that we have strayed from. And it seems to me we know judgment is inevitable. Every nation has a shelf life, doesn't it?
We do.
No matter who. I mean, you go to the great nations of the world, from Babylon to Greece to Rome, etc. They had a beginning, middle, and an end. And that's going to be true of our country as well as any other country. But what we're praying for is, before that time comes, that we could have perhaps another great spiritual awakening.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is the answer we want. America's not in the Bible in the last days because no one's here. We've got a great revival, the rapture of the church happens, and the country's empty. Wouldn't that be the great answer to it? Yeah.
It's so funny. It is so funny. He says we're not here. So anyway, so he says America's not here. So let's just quickly just see. So as we know, right? Let's go to the crust of the point here, right? Revelations, right? So we know this place. America's sitting there waiting for its destruction, right? So, I'd like to ask this pastor, who does he think this place is here? All right. There's so many scriptures I can bring out about America being in the Bible, right? But let's just go to one of the main ones, right? Before we shut this down. Because this guy has got me in, I can't stop laughing. But like I said, It says here, Revelations 18:8. It says, and after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. All right? This is when he talks about, he says, they're not a player in the last days. America are a major player in the last days. We know America is Babylon the Great. He says he was saying America is having no form of godliness. That's right, because it's pure Mose and alphabet community that runs America. Their godliness went a long time. He talks about America as if America has no crimes, right? You know, how did America get established? Through murder, pillage, rape, and genocide and slavery, all right? It's all throughout their history. America spent 300-400 years committing murder, genocide, lynching, slavery, pillage, robbery to build up their economy. But they don't mention that. These Edomite pastors don't mention how America got to be America. It's this Judaism, what they call it, Judo-Christian, or Judaism Christian society, that all of our institutions were founded by all of these pastors that found all of our great institutions like Harvard and Yale and all this. They forget. They don't ever, these Edomites, right? This is why, you know, these people are the wicked themselves. They don't ever mention what it is did these people do to claim the land, to build the land. How did they get to be where they are? How did they get to be the richest and most powerfulest nation in the world? How is the most richest and most powerfulest nation in the world not in the Bible? Is that even possible? What do you think the Most High is doing up there? Smoking blunts or something? Seriously, these people, they wind me up sometimes, but the Spirit guides me to deal with this spiritually and through the scriptures, as always, because our war is spiritual, not carnal. So it says, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great, which is the United States of America, is fallen, has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean bird. That's America. That's talking about its destruction that's going to come. The same destruction that the Russians are going to do when we read early in Ezekiel, when he says that he's going to have an evil thought in his mind, that's when he's going to fire those missiles on America. When he says, where is it? Be like a cloud. That's the thing. Here it is. When this is what the Russians are going to have. Thus says the Lord Yahweh, it shall also come to pass that the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. And that evil thought is to fire these missiles on America. That's what the Russians are going to do. That's what Gog and Magog's going to do. All right. So when it talks about here and it says the habitation of devils and the whole of every foul bird, I believe, if I go into, is it Revelations? Not Revelations, Isaiah 13. Let me just open my Bible. Open my Bible, sorry family. When it says here, Isaiah 24. I mean, how it's beyond me though. But that's Esau. I always said it, that's Esau. Yeah, is it Isaiah 13? Yeah. So, you know, Isaiah says the same thing what John the Revelator says here. I said, I don't want to go through because there's so many scriptures, man. We could be here all night, but we're just going to do these sort of main scriptures, right? So remember, this is the first verse, and this is what? The burden of Babylon. That's America, which Isaiah, the son of Amos, see. All right? Let's talk about America. Lift up the banner upon the high mountains, exalt the voice unto them. This is what we are doing. This is what the men of Israel are doing. So when he says that there's going to be a spiritual awakening before the judgment, well, that spiritual awakening, that's the only thing that he spoke truth on. That spiritual awakening before the judgment is happening. That's the men of Israel, through the powers of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, powers of the Holy Spirit, we are waking up the elect. That spiritual awakening is happening before the judgment. That's the only correct thing those pastors said, that there's going to be a spiritual awakening before the judgment. And then the other correct thing he said every kingdom that rises has to fall, has a beginning, a middle, and an end. He said the Romans had it, the Egyptians had it, the Babylonians had it, the Persian Medes had it, and all of those kingdoms are in the Bible, but yet America's not in the Bible? Come on, guys. So that's the only two things he had correct. He knows that every kingdom has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Well, America's end is here, right? And the other correct thing that he said, the only other correct thing was that before the judgment, there's going to be a spiritual awakening. And that spiritual awakening is the Hebrew Israelite brothers that are preaching this word on the highways and byways and the different streaming platforms in the name of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, not in the name of Jesus Christ. So when it says lift up a banner upon the high mountain, exalt the voice unto them, shake the hand that they may go into the gates of the nobles. This is what we have done. We have lifted up our voice like a banner upon the high mountains, upon all of the governments. We're calling them out. We're exalting our voice, preaching the word, waking up the elect, condemning and prophesying the downfall of Babylon the Great, Esau, Edom. We're shaking the hands that they may go into the gates of the noble. So when it says, I have commanded my sanctified ones, I have also called my mighty ones for mine anger, even them that rejoice at my highness. So his sanctified ones and his mighty ones, those are the missiles that are going to be fired on America. Right? It says the noise of the multitude in the mountains, right? In the governments, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of kingdoms, of nations gathered together. The Lord Yahweh of hosts musters the host to the battle. What battle is that? That's the war of Armageddon in the valley of Jehoshaphat. Right? It says, they come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even the Lord, the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. What weapons are those? Your ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles. They're going to come from one end of heaven, from Russia, all the way to America, right? And from China to America, North Korea, all of the Russian allies are going to be firing these missiles on America. Even America's allies, NATO allies, at some point in the war are going to turn their weapons on America. These are the weapons of the Most High's indignations. Howl ye, for the day of the Lord is at hand. It shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. This is what this is talking about. This is all about America. I don't really want to have to read all through this, but you can read through this yourself. This is all talking about America, Babylon the Great. So when it says here, and Babylon, which is America, the glory of the kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldeans represent the wise men of America today. They were the wise men of ancient Babylon. These represent the wise men of modern Babylon, right? Even the beauty of the Chaldeans' excellency shall be as when, what? The Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. America's going to end up like Sodom and Gomorrah. Remember, ancient Babylon is well inhabited by the Iraqis today. Ancient Babylon wasn't destroyed and made desolate by Cyrus the Great when he entered and conquered Babylon, as I showed you earlier. It shall never be inhabited. Neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there. Neither shall shepherds make their fold there. Well, ancient Babylon, the shepherds are pitching their tents. There's shops, there's airports, there's all sorts there. There's hairdressers, there's barbers, there's shopping malls. The whole place is built up. Ancient Babylon is still there. It's not talking about ancient Babylon. It's talking about a modern place that represents Babylon the Great, which is the United States of America. How can America not be in the Bible, man? The greatest kingdom ever built, not in the Most High's plans. These Edomites are so proud. They're so proud with their foolishness. So, and we went through how we know this is how ancient Babylon was taken down, right? So, it says it's never going to be inhabited again, right? But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. You understand? And satyrs shall dance there. And the last verse tells you, and this is in correlation with Revelations that we're reading. And the wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and the dragons in their pleasant palaces. It's going to become a desolation. And her time is near to come. America's destruction is near to come. And her days shall not be prolonged, because we are in the latter days of the latter days. We are so close to this war of Armageddon. All we're waiting for is for the microchip, the MOTB, the mark of the beast, to go global. Once that goes global, the war can kick off at any point after the mark of the beast goes global. So her time is near, her time is now, and her days shall not be prolonged. That's talking about America. It's not talking about ancient Babylon, because ancient Babylon is being existed since the time Cyrus went in there and conquered the Neo-Babylon Empire. It's still there today. We know it as Iraq. So if we go back to Revelations 18, when it says, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great has fallen, has become the habitation of devils. Those were those wild animals that we are speaking of, that we just saw in in Isaiah 13. And every foul spirit and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird shall be there. These are these wild beasts here of the islands that shall cry in their desolate houses and dragons in their pleasant palaces. That's what John the Revelator is speaking of, the exact same thing that Isaiah is speaking of, how America is going to become a desolation. And all of these wild beasts and wild animals, these desert animals, are the only ones that are going to reside there after the destruction. So then it says here, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. Every country trades with the United States of America. Every country wants to be part of the United States of America, all right? Part of their, their thing. Everyone wants to be like them. What do you want in America? I want to go to America. America. Everyone wants to be America. And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacy. Why? Because America is the richest country in the world. America makes up 5% of the world population, but imports 25% and consumes 25% of the world's resources. So every country is made rich from off of her, from selling to her, from trading with her, from doing business with her. Every country is made rich of that America. All the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her. Who the hell is this talking about? How can America not be in the Bible? What are these pastors? What are they drinking? Sorry, if I must grab this power cord. Sorry. Salaki, what the hell are they drinking, man? What could they be drinking, family? That's America. This is America. What do you want in America? It says, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people. That's the deliverance of the elect. Only the elect of Israel, the 1/3 of the children of Israel from the 12 tribes, are going to be delivered out of that destruction. The elites that will survive that destruction will be hiding in their bunkers, their underground bunkers, and the majority of them would have left the country to go and hide in bunkers abroad. But a lot of them will be in bunkers in America themselves, all right? But those that are on ground, just the elect, 1/3 of the Israelites are going to survive that destruction in America. It says, come out of her, my people. That's the deliverance into the chariots, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that you not receive of her plagues. Her sins are her judgments, right? That she's going to be judging for, and her plagues are the missiles. That's America, my friend. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and the Most High has remembered her iniquities. Absolutely. Who the hell do they think this is talking about? I tell you, the Most High is not dealing with your Edomite, Christian, Catholic, Protestant pastors. It says, reward her, even as she has rewarded you. Double unto her, double according to her works. In the cup which she has filled, fill to her double. So what did America fill up in her cup to become the greatest country in the world? Slavery, genocide of the Native American Indian tribes of North, South America, and Canada, which are part of the 12 tribes of Israel, right? The transatlantic slave trade, right? Of the Southern Kingdom, the children of Israel, right? The lynching of the children of Israel, the oppression, the incarceration of the children of Israel, the destruction of the children of Israel, the stealing of their identity, the genocide that they committed against the Native American Indian tribes, the biological warfare weapons that they used when they infected the blankets with smallpox and gave it to them and put them on their reservations. They stole their land, they put them on the worst lands, they killed the animals to starve them out by famine, and then they also infected their blankets with smallpox to wipe them out. And all of their crimes that they committed abroad. But it's mainly to do with the children of Israel, the crimes that America, Babylon the Great, has committed against the true children of Israel, not those small hats running around in Israel today calling themselves Israelis. No. I'm talking about the true children of Israel. You African Americans, West Indians, and Caribbeans, You Native American Indians from North, South America and Canada today, who they call Latinos, Hispanics, Mexicans, and Puerto Ricans, is coming because of what was done to you. And the Israelites that are scattered to the four corners of the world and that are mixed amongst the other nations and will look like the other nations, is coming for the crimes that these Edomites, and in particular America, committed against you. It says how much she has glorified herself. That's America. And lived deliciously. That's America. So much torment and sorrow give her. That's the missiles that's going to hit her. That's going to be her torment and sorrow. For she has what? For she has said in her heart, I sit a queen. That's America. In her heart and her mind, I sit a queen. And am no widow and shall see no sorrow. Oh, we're not going to see death. We're not going to see horrible people dying on our land. No, not America. We're only going to see death and destruction in the tens and hundreds and the millions in foreign countries, but not in America. Well, the Bible says. She says, I sit a queen, am no widow, shall see no sorrow. But what does this prophecy say? Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. That fire is intercontinental ballistic missiles. For strong is the Lord, Yahweh, the power, who judges her. She's been judged, and her destruction and judgment is here. And the kings of the earth, all of the other leaders of the other nations around the world who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her, all of the European countries that have made billions and trillions of dollars by trading with America and by going and by siding with her policies, all of those countries around the world. China is the fastest growing middle class in the world. It's in China. They're making billions and trillions out of America, China. China produces 50% of America's goods. All these countries, the Middle East, all the oil they sell to America, they made billions and trillions of dollars over the decades. All of these countries, Australia, New Zealand, India, it's a now uprising economy. All of these countries that have made billions and trillions and have lived deliciously with her, with America, they shall bewail her because the money bag is going to be gone. No more America. No more food. They shall what? They shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning. Nuclear missiles. Verse 10. Standing afar off for the fear of her torment. We're going to witness it on TV. Some countries are going to witness it from their actual country. They're going to be able to see the fire burning from their own countries. Saying, alas, alas, that great city, the United States of America. There's no other greater country in this world than America. That mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. Simple. So when you're telling me America's not in the Bible, she's in the Bible everywhere. Jeremiah 50, 51, Ezekiel 36, 35, 38, 39, Revelations from 16, 17, 18, 19, chapter 9, Isaiah 13, 24, 34. You're everywhere, America. Joel chapter 3. Anyway, on that note, we're going to call it a day, family. So, for all of you out there, you get these off-key pastors that don't know the Bible because the Lord is not dealing with them, who believe that America is not in the Bible. So that's why they're asking the question. Well, let me tell you, America is in the Bible from Genesis to Revelations, and her end is going to be the most spectacular destruction that the world is ever going to witness and will ever witness. Simple as that. It's going to play a major part in the war of Armageddon. It's going to play a major part when the Lord, Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, turns up in the chariots with the angels to deliver the elect and to destroy America. So on that note, I want to give all the praises and the glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakah, Kodash, Shalom, 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 and double honors to the elders of Great Millstone. I pray you were edified by today's edification. Until we meet again, family, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom.